rebel religion in the news.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to KKXX Christian Talk Radio. I'm Jerry Lennon, along with Alfredo Romero, the pastor of Rock of Life Fellowship. Hope you had a good weekend. Hi, Pastor. How are you?
Hey, I'm actually, I had a good weekend. I'm doing
Did
really
you?
well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear. Let's talk about movies. You told me that the Joker was a movie. The Joker Part 2 was supposed to come out. It was supposed to be a great film, and it was Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga.
Yes.
It turned into a big flop. What happened?
Well, there's two problems with it. The first one is it's so far, and I'm a big Batman fan, by the way.
Yeah.
And comic books, whole thing. The first problem was it's a musical.
Yeah.
And Batman fans, like true Batman fans, they don't want to see the Joker and Lady Gaga in a musical. And the second problem with it, it's so far off the canon of the Batman storyline. It's so far off of who Batman is and who the Joker was. It's like a totally different kind of a movie than who the real Joker was. And you can compare him to the Heath Ledger version in The Dark Knight. And there's no comparison. It's too far off the storyline. It's like a completely different story. So Batman fans, we're not interested.
All right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
There's also another movie that came out called The Apprentice, and that's a story, kind of a biop about former President Donald Trump.
Yes.
It didn't turn out really well. I mean, it was not just at the box office, but I mean the story itself, kind of presented the former president in sort of a negative light. Is that what I heard? I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was it was a limited release, and when it came out, and I saw a few previews of it, it was how Donald Trump basically, if I was going to paraphrase it, steps over people and manipulates people, and it's I'm a god kind of a persona. And no, first of all, you got two problems. Number one, Trump fans don't want to go see a movie that shows Trump in a bad light, and number two, people that don't like Trump don't want to go see a movie about Trump. So I don't know why they made it in the first place.
Yeah. But Donald Trump wasn't always a great guy. He's not a great guy now. He has some good qualities, and people could say he was a good president. But as a young man, I got the feeling he was kind of a jerk, wasn't he? It seemed to me that he wasn't a particularly terrific guy. He had a beautiful wife in Ivana, cheated on her. They got with Marla Maples. He cheated on her apparently, and then that divorced. I'm not here to judge, but he also was a very aggressive businessman.
Sure.
Which, particularly back in the '80s, wasn't a bad thing. There was the thing about in the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas, greed is good, and he kind of epitomized that in the 1980s. And he was like that guy. He was not a great guy, if we're honest.
Well, being relative, depends on whose side you were on. If you were against him, he was a jerk. If you were on his side, he was the greatest guy ever because he was bringing you to success.
I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, I see some good qualities in him as a leader, and as a president, things were pretty good when he was president as opposed to the last 4 years. But I could look objectively at it and say that he probably did some things back in the 80s and 90s and even a few years back that may not have been all that great. I'm tempted to see it just to get a fair view of it, because we always talk about wanting to be fair. Maybe I think sometimes the conservatives, the whole Trump MAGA movement, treats him too much like he's some sort of demigod, and he's a human being that made lots of mistakes when he was a young man. He seems to be a pretty good leader. He seems to be He seems to be somebody who makes the trains run on time. As he always likes to say, he gets the work done on time and under budget, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as his personal life goes, he appears to have been a good father. He's now, in his old age, become probably a good husband. But I don't think that was always the case.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, I think you can paint that same picture to anybody. I mean, that you just described me.
Right.
My 80s, the 1980s, oof. I was not a good person at all,
Right.
And stepped on a lot of people and did a lot of bad things. And I mean, never broke any laws, but
Right.
I just not a very nice friend. And very selfish and arrogant. But I was a musician. I'm playing in nightclubs, and it was all about me, me, me. It was, lights on me, glory to me. And I was not a good person at all.
So anyway, what I'm saying is maybe the movie The Apprentice maybe is a fair depiction of what I have to see it. I haven't seen it, but now I'm probably more curious that I do want to see it now to see whether there are some. If I would like to see a fair, even representation, and I just don't think that really exists nowadays.
No,
You know?
there's too much bias in movie making. I mean, if you even look at the movies right now, and to keep on that topic of movies, there's a lot of people that will not go to movies because of the messages they put in. It's more like they're preaching to you. It's more like they're telling you what you should think.
Yeah.
Even in Marvel movies, superhero movies, my wife and I like to go to movies. It's a real break for us. Mm-hmm. But we literally have walked out of movies. Oh, here we go again. It's a political message. They have to insert a character. They have to insert a message. So that's why I was looking at some of the reasons why the successful movies lately have been so successful, like Top Gun Maverick. No, there's no political message in that movie. Even movies like Super Mario, there was no agenda on that movie. The movies that are taken off and doing well have dropped that preaching to you. This is how you should be thinking kind of morality. And so I don't know if Disney's going to get wise to it or anybody, but I think that's the reason why Snow White is getting such bad a rap. The new movie coming out, they pushed it back a year. Rachel Ziegler who's playing Snow White, made the comment that the old 1938 version was basically racist and misogynist and the whole thing. So and people backed out of the movie. So
Saturday Night Live has returned to humor. Apparently, for the last several Saturday nights, last several episodes, they've kind of taken a shot at Kamala Harris, putting her in sort of mocking her, and which is really a change because for the previous 4 years worth of episodes, it was constantly Alec Baldwin doing a terrible impersonation of Donald Trump, acting as a buffoon, and it was just always one-sided. And apparently, at least for the last several weekends, Kamala Harris has been the butt of the Saturday Night Live jokes. And I'm kind of wondering what caused that change. I mean, we're right in the heat of the election season. Why is it that SNL, right now, when the election is on the line, is going after Kamala Harris?
Ratings and money. Because their ratings were tanking because only people that watched Saturday Night Live were people that had their same political views. Mm-hmm. And now that it's so obvious that there's character flaws in Biden and Kamala and everyone, Trump, everybody, I'm just paint the wide brush there. But they have to realize they couldn't keep an audience just trashing Republicans and Donald Trump. So they actually called back a few people like Dana Carvey, who impersonates Biden, and Maya Rudolph. Those are old Saturday Night Live cast members. They came back, and they're bringing back some of the people that used to watch Saturday Night Live in the 80s and 90s. It's about money and ratings, and also, it's hard not to realize when you ever see an interview. And I'm not trashing Kamala, or I don't care about parties, but it's hard to ignore the things that you could make fun of Biden and Kamala Harris. You can't just run with Trump jokes forever. But so they got Maya. I think we talked about this earlier, but they got Maya Rudolph impersonating Kamala Harris, and somebody imitating Donald Trump on Family Feud with Steve Harvey. And the very first question, things you find in the glove compartment. And Kamala Harris hits it first, and the first thing she says is, I come from a middle-class family.
Yeah.
It never answers the question. And those are the kind of things that will get people like me that dropped Saturday Night Live 15 years ago interested. I came home last night, and my wife was watching the Saturday Night Live I go, what are you doing watching Saturday Night Live? She goes, well, it's funny. Yeah. So their ratings will go up if they become a little more fair and balanced.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not maybe they see the tea leaves in the election, and it may be. Maybe. Well, I think they see the tea leaves, like you said, in the ratings. I think that's really the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did like the fact that, look, you remember, this is going to make me sound old. You remember Johnny Carson and
oh, yeah.
He used to make fun of everybody. Yeah. It was so even-keeled. He'd make fun of the president. He'd make fun of the Democrat, the Republicans. He'd make fun of everybody. He had these great jokes. They're very classy. But you can't watch talk shows nowadays because they're just so one-sided.
Well, it's not
they,
just
they
that they're
kill half their audience.
It's not just that they're one-sided, and they are one-sided. You're right about that. But there's so much snark in it. It's not.
Yeah.
Humor should include everybody. So that when Carson would do jokes, even Jay Leno to a degree, it was humor. There's a difference between humor, which envelops and embodies the person, as opposed to just trying to be funny for a quick laugh. And unfortunately, I think the likes of David Spade and guys like David Letterman, I don't think they did humor a service. They did snark a service, where it became fun just to make fun of somebody. I mean, I think of some of the SNL skits where they made fun of people who were overweight, and John Goodman would come in, and who was the woman who recorded Monica Lewinsky? I can't remember her name.
Oh yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
Yeah. And she passed away, not a couple of years ago, and she didn't do anything wrong. She actually wound up helping Monica Lewinsky save her reputation, but they made fun of her weight. They make fun of somebody's that I always find, or the way they look. It was just mean, and I think that's kind of what's bothered me with a lot of humor nowadays, and SNL in particular, where it sounds like what they did with Maya Rudolph and Kamala Harris was just humor. It was funny. It wasn't mean.
No.
Which made it more effective and just made it funny, where even I could imagine a Kamala Harris supporter saying, well, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny, as opposed to just being mean. I kind of hope that. Oh, by the way, we need to talk real quickly, if we have time, about Howard Stern.
I was
and
just
how
gonna
he
say that.
turned into just a sniveling little child.
Gonna say that.
What a baby, talking about, oh, I don't want. I felt so bad about them making fun of you on SNL. It was terrible. I was rooting for you, and I don't want them to do that. Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, it was awful to
It
see
was
Howard.
horrible.
It was so. It was like oh, I don't want to say what it sounded like. It just sounded like he became a little girl, and I know that sounds terrible. I don't mean it to, but he didn't sound like a man. It was pathetic. Howard Stern.
He's changed. 20 years ago, he would have been on top of the league. There was no-
There's a reason for that. We'll get right back to that when we come back after this.
Rebel religion in the news. Rebel religion in the news.
All right, welcome back in with Pastor Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship, and we're talking about things that are going on in society. We finished up with Howard Stern, who felt so bad about the mean things that they were doing on SNL about Kamala Harris, and to her credit, actually, Kamala Harris actually said something intelligent and said, I think Maya Rudolph, embraced the character really well, and she was a good sport about it. But, Howard, the reason he has to be like that is the same reason that Jimmy Kimmel has to be like that. Jimmy Kimmel has video of him in blackface.
Yeah, he does. I mean, to Charles
And if
Barkley.
he ever became conservative, that would be used against him.
Yeah.
But now they let it go. Yeah. Same thing with Howard Stern. Howard Stern, he used to make fun of homeless people.
Yeah.
He used to mock homeless people. He used to have women come on and do sexual things in his studio.
He was horrible.
It was horrible. So now he can't go against the left, because if he does, all of those things are going to be brought up and he'll be canceled. That's the reason he is the way he is. But it was weak.
Yeah, but he didn't. One more thing, he didn't. When he had Kamala Harris on there, he said, I don't like it when people make fun of you. I'm definitely going to vote for you. He said, but then again, he says, I'd vote for the wall over Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And that didn't make her look too good. I mean, I'm voting for a wall instead of Donald Trump.
That's
so
true.
I guess I'm going to vote for you.
That's true. But let's put got to do the shoe on the other foot test, which is the greatest test of them all. If you asked a Trump supporter, someone like Sean Hannity, he would say, I would vote for the wall over voting for Kamala Harris. He would say the same thing.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
let's be honest.
That's true.
I mean, let's be truthful about it.
That's true.
There is so much divisiveness. There's no sense even talking. Let's move on to something else real quickly, as long as we're on the entertainment topic. Disney now has a transgender stormtrooper.
Yeah.
What is the point of this? Why would they do this? Bob Iger vowed to dial down the culture wars But now we have a transgender woman, I guess was a man, now becomes a woman named Sister, who wears armor painted in the colors of the trans flag. The latest stormtrooper added to the increasingly, well, this is an opinion piece, what they call the increasingly insufferable and stupid Star Wars universe. Gosh, it was such a great universe.
It was awesome. They ruined it.
Yeah.
They absolutely ruined. So what happened was, if you go back in the backstory, a video broke about 2 years ago with the executives at Disney, and the topic was how to infuse LGBTQ into their storylines. So what they ended up doing, well, they got busted in a sense for it because it was obviously an agenda. So what they ended up doing was they hired, I don't mean this derogatory, but they hired a woman to make the last couple of Star Wars movies, and it was obviously female lead strong. And then they made a huge mistake because a lot of original Star Wars fans, they were changing characters. A lot of Star Wars fans like me backed out. Then they came up with a TV show called The Acolyte, where, just to narrow it down, The Acolyte lasted one season, got canceled. Nobody watched it because they came out saying specifically that they wanted to make the gayest Star Wars show ever. That's their quote, not mine. And what basically happened was they created the origin of the Jedis were lesbian witches. And that was basically the storyline of The Acolyte. Obviously, Star Wars fans, I know it sounds crazy, right? But that's why it bombed and flopped. And now Bob Iger, the head of Disney, he actually came out, because he owns Star Wars now, he actually said that they were going to tone down the political agenda and rhetoric. But then they come out with the trans stormtrooper. So I'm a Star Wars fan, and I've got a bunch of Star Wars fans that I know, friends. And they all say, look, whatever, just don't change canon. Don't change what the original movies were. Don't to fit the current landscape of which way the wind is blowing. Just keep it canon. Keep it the way it's supposed to be. You want to do their quote, the gayest Star Wars ever. Create a different storyline, a different movie, completely get away from Star Wars and go create something that's original. Don't change what's already in place, and that's the problem that people have.
Disneyland in California, the one in Anaheim, is hiking its ticket prices for its high demand days. Despite the fact that the Disney park is seeing financial losses, the Anaheim-based park will keep its entry-level ticket price of $104 per person. I still can't get over $100 just to get in. If you have a family of four, that's $416 just to get into the park. I don't get this. But tickets based on demand will rise between $7 and $12, which is up 6.5% increase on certain days when it gets to be really crowded. How much longer can people sustain these prices? And I've never understood the whole. I have relatives, in-laws, who are well, anyway, they're relatives. I don't know. I can't figure whether they're in-laws or which. But I guess on the side of my side of the family. I take that back. Who are Disney adults, which is, if they're listening, I'm really sorry. It's just a weak thing, and it doesn't matter what it costs. They're going to go to Disneyland, and they're going to go 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year.
Yikes.
And they spend that kind of money. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's hard to continue to understand how people are spending this kind of money when you can do all kinds of different things and have just as much fun for a lot less money than people do. And I know this isn't a financial show, but it seems to me this is just a lot of being. I remember going to Disneyland not that long ago. It was $30 to get in, and it was reasonable, and it was a fun time. It just
you still paid through the teeth for food and drinks, but hey, it was, it's okay.
Right.
My daughters are big Disney. Well, my daughter is a big Disneyland fan, and they go a couple times a year. And I sent her this article. She goes, "Yeah, Dad, we can't afford to go anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Universal Studios because that's where Nintendo World is and Super Mario." Here's the thing. There's a lot of people, just to connect the stories, there's a lot of people that are boycotting Disney, and that's one of the reasons why they're raising prices. They're losing money. Their Disney platform on TV, their streaming service, has lost millions of subscribers, and mainly because of political issues and agendas on their TV shows. So they've lost. So they partnered with Hulu. So now if you buy Disney, you partner with Hulu. So now they're talking about to make money a streaming service because they're losing money now. Netflix is going to partner with a streaming service. Hulu's already partnered with Disney. So what they don't understand is why are they losing money? Number one reason is there's a political fight there. It's just worldviews. That's obvious. The other reason is Disneyland's gotten so expensive because people in this economy, they can't afford to go to Disneyland anymore. It seems to me, if I was Bob Iger, I'm the head of Disney, what I would do is I'd make my money on volume. Drop the prices, make a profit, but get more people. I would much rather make a profit on volume than a high profit with little volume. It doesn't make sense. That's like Econ 101. I have a business major. It doesn't make sense to me. Make the money on volume, because if you get people in the door, boy, they got to buy your food. They have to buy the drinks, and those are expensive. It's like the movie theaters. They don't make money on ticket sales. They make money at the concession stand.
Well, it's the culture. The culture wars is what's causing their stock to go down. I mean, that's the reason. There are too many people who are Christians, Orthodox Jews, conservative, Muslims who say,
Yes.
I don't want to be a part of this. I just want to go there and take my kid and go on some rides and see some fantasy and some fun, and it's a small world, and go on fast rocket rides and go in Fantasyland and Frontierland.
I want to take a picture with Snow White.
Take a picture with Snow White and take a picture with Mickey and Daffy Duck or whatever. That's what people want. They don't want all this stuff. And why can't Disney? I mean, how much Bob Iger gets paid how many millions of dollars to make stupid decisions? It's just unbelievable to me that they cannot figure out, because I guess back then we had Prince Charming was part of the, Cinderella and some of the stories about men coming in and sweeping women off their feet.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's now viewed as a negative thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's toxic masculinity is what they call it.
Toxic masculinity.
That the patriarchy is bad, men are bad, women don't need men. So the good thing about this Bob Iger thing, he actually came in about a year or so ago after the previous when Bob Iger retired, they brought somebody else in. I forget his name. I don't want to be inaccurate. But he bombed and had a really bad agenda. A video came out of him talking about instituting LGBTQ agenda into Disney. They ended up letting him go, brought Bob Iger back in, and he actually made a statement: we will not be so politically present anymore. But that's not what's happening.
That didn't last long.
That didn't. There's the other thing, and I have to mention this, and I'm just stating out facts here. You can fact check me. One of the reasons why a lot of people boycotted Disneyland is there was a video that went viral of the kids walking into a store called I think it was a costume store anyway, but the greeter was a man in women's clothing greeting kids. He was dressed up like as one of the godmothers or something, and that went viral. And people, I don't expose my kids to that. So whether you agree or disagree, I'm sorry, but there's enough people out there to make a dent in Disney's profit that don't want their agenda.
I just remembered the name of the woman who tape recorded Monica Lewinsky, Linda Tripp.
That's it, Linda Tripp.
And just to finish up that story, we were talking about humor and how humor became so snarky and mean. And it happened during that time when they made fun of, and I remember John Goodman, who I think was a good man, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
And he got dressed up as Linda Tripp and came out there really fat and made fun of her, made fun of her looks and made fun of her weight, and it was so cruel. And that's where humor has gone. And because you had brought up Johnny Carson,
Yeah.
Johnny Carson's humor was not mean.
No.
It was not mean. It was enveloping. It was humor. It was fun. He didn't laugh at people and mock them like David Letterman did. And I'm sorry when
I agree.
it's a shame what's happened to humor. If people, it's what is fun is going on YouTube. We got just about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
And looking at Johnny Carson old shows.
I still do.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Too mean.
We are out of time. I want to thank my co-host, Pastor Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. So long, everyone.